What we have heard over the state and what we felt all along, the two number one issues in this campaign is who can do something about utility rates, and secondly, who can put a halt to unnecessary spending in state government. And we have a plan in both areas. First, in the utility area, we've passed every law and we've done everything, and utility rates still go up. And the only way we're going to bring it back down is to do something about the Public Service Commission. And everybody who deals with that commission or has watched it over the past several years knows that they don't do the job, have not done the job, and can't do the job. And what we plan to do is to abolish the Public Service Commission, replace it with an agency under the governor's office that actually can do the job, properly staffed, independent, but still with the expertise and the ability to actually stand toe-to-toe with the power company when they try to get these big rate increases. And the second thing is to pass a constitutional amendment which will give the governor of Alabama the right to freeze and then roll back utility rates to a reasonable level, a rate that people can afford. And if we do this, this will be the best thing that's happened to the people of Alabama in the last 20 years, because today people cannot afford to pay the light bills. It's just that simple. The second thing, and I hear this all over Alabama, people are tired of sending tax dollars into government generally and then seeing no result, or a poor result, or good results in some places and bad results in others. And we plan to actually ask the legislature to pass a bill that will give the people the right to vote on any future tax bill. In other words, if it's a tax for Montgomery County, the people affected would have the right to vote on it before it becomes law. Same thing for any other county or city or the entire state of Alabama. And this, in effect, would give us a power that we presently don't have, and that is to keep the power to tax out of the hands of a legislature that oftentimes gets controlled or maybe is irresponsible or not responsive, and also out of the hands of one or two people who might flim-flam folks into thinking they need taxes when they don't. And it really puts the power back in the hands of the people where it ought to be all along anyway.
The Wildcats finished with a 9-1 record last season, and many think that one loss to Montgomery Lanier cost Enterprise the 4A state championship. But Enterprise should make a go of it again this season with 14 returning starters, and they have good size. Head coach Bill Bacon says the Wildcats are ready.
Well, Dan, we're really looking forward to the season. As to how we'll do, you know, you never can tell. I think that has a lot to do with your opposition, how well you play. We know we lost some, good athletes last year. We were 9-1, and we've got a lot of holes to fill. We certainly hope this group can do it. And they've had some good fall practices, and I think they're, ready for the season to start, and they're looking forward to the season to start. And I just hope they do as well as they think they can and as we expect them to.
Bacon must replace 3 starters from the offensive backfield. 2 graduated. The other has moved to defense. But Bacon says Enterprise is still in good shape at the running back positions. That's important since the Wildcats run out of the wishbone and like to keep the ball on the ground. Enterprise opens the season this Friday night against Viger of Mobile.
The meter reader here in Montgomery turned in misinformation, the wrong information in meter reading, which resulted in certain customers throughout the city of Montgomery being presented with extremely low bills in the month of June, and then consequently when it was reread in the month of July, they had high bills. As an example, one of the customers, that I have a copy of his bill here, in the months of June and July of 1977, in those 2 months, he used 5,001 kilowatt hours. For the same 2 months in 1978, he used 5,064 kilowatt hours, approximately the same. The only difference is that in June and July of last year, he was billed approximately 2,500 kilowatt hours each month. This year, because of the meter reader's actions, he had 817 kilowatt hours in 1 month, 4,247 kilowatt hours in the second month. This is part of the evidence that we wanted to present to the commission yesterday, and we absolutely didn't have the opportunity to present our evidence.
Do you have any idea why you were not able to present the evidence that you brought?
Well, that'd be pure speculation, and honestly, I don't.
Basically what we do is weather stripping, caulking, repairing the roof. We don't put a whole roof on, we just fix the hole in the roof. We do what we call repairing the floors, basically stopping cold air from coming in during the winter time and hot air from staying in during the summer. And we have a lot of houses in the area that we do. Our basic criteria well, we have 3 priorities, and they are the 60 years of age, and the second priority is that we weatherize people who are on who are disabled and who are on disability. The third priority is that the people who might be under 60 years of age, but have a large number of people in the household, kids I should say, and they are getting exposed to the weather, and the rationale is that this is a health hazard, so we can weatherize the people home and make it comfortable for them in that way.
Are you working in any specific areas in the city?
We work basically out of 8 areas. We have what we call 8 neighborhood service centers, and have 4 urban and 4 rural. The urban, the Gibbs Village area, the Trenton, Chisholm, and we have one more area, that's the Cleveland area. The rural, Pine Level, Raymond, Macedonia. First priority is people 60 years of age, and I didn't tell you, but we have to deal with homeowners first. They have to own the houses. And the rationale is that a lot of these people are on fixed incomes, and they are not able to fix their houses or repair as other people who can get a loan, some type small loan from Farm Home Administration and other places that give some type of loan at a low percentage. We know that they can't pay for that type of work, so that's where we have the outreach workers to go in, screen the person, and determine whether or not they can fit our poverty income guideline. We have a poverty income guideline, a DOE guideline, Department of Energy guideline, that states that a person has to be under a certain income to be able to receive our benefits. The goal for this year is that in our proposal, we propose to reach 180 people. That's weatherizing 180 homes. We have reached 80 homes already. Now we do what we call insulation work too. DOE awarded us some money through a grant that was that we used, and the grant was initially for 3 months. And basically what they wanted us to do was blow in attic insulation. And we blew in attic insulation for 3 months. We were to blow in no less than 44 houses. We did 47 houses. Now we will get an initial some more grant money from DOE, along with the money that CSA has given us. But as I stated, we are to do, with the new proposal, 180 houses. Total, we've done 81, and with the crew that we have, we think that we can meet our goal.
Now, what if somebody's out there saying, well, I meet these criteria and I'd like to have my house done, but they're not in these areas that you mentioned? Is there any way that you could possibly help these persons in the future?
I'm glad you asked that, because we not only get intakes from our outreach workers, we get them from DPNS, Department of Pensions and Security. We get people as walk-ins. Some people come in and they say, hey, I've heard about the program. I want to get an intake and fill out an application. We let them do that. Some people, the other workers and other components know about the program, so they will sometime bring an intake or the person in so that they can get this type work done for them. Now, we screen them. We go with the income guideline. If they meet it, we will put them in the category with the others for being eligible for weatherization.
Stalker 700 is an educational program that will go out into each county in this state in an attempt to keep a part of the profit in the beef cattle business in Alabama that has not been kept in this state in the past. We have over a decade worth of research that shows that we can profitably keep weaned calves, normally weighing 350 to 400 pounds, keep those calves in Alabama through the fall and spring on grazing, and capture some of those profits which have been being transferred out to the west, to either Oklahoma or Texas or wherever our calves went. We have budgets, again, from the research data, almost a decade's worth, that show in the neighborhood of an additional $100 net per head, per calf, $100. Now, if just a fourth of the Alabama cattlemen believed in this enough to take advantage of it over the next year or two, this would amount to $25 million additional net dollars in Alabama.
Cattle prices have increased considerably, and our people, we think, are out of the woods, so to speak, in the cattle business, and that things are looking real good for the cattlemen for the next few years, and we are predicting real good prices for cattle and for the cattlemen to do well. Imports are still a big problem to the cattlemen. We are importing about 7% of our domestic production, but we are working now. The cattlemen associations throughout the country are working to get a national strengthening the meat import law that we now have, and we hope that sometime in the near future, in the next Congress, we'll be able to get some help through government help as far as laws to restrict this foreign imported beef from coming into America.
He has successfully diverted attention from the real issue in this matter, and that real issue is Joe Fine's receipt of brokers' fees from these coal companies that sell coal to Alabama Power. Joe has a history here in the Senate. You can go in there and see my financial disclosure statement. Why can't you see Joe Fine's? You can see any other public official's financial statement. Why can't you see Senator Fine's? It's just incredible that a judge would issue a broad order of that nature. One might wonder where Perry Hooper was when Richard Nixon needed him. If we'd had a Perry Hooper in Washington instead of John Sirica, we still wouldn't know anything about Watergate.
Throughout the four-year term, and it's common knowledge that they have, that is, the AEA has committed themselves to re-electing Senator Powell. He is spending more money running for the state senate than some candidates are spending running for governor. From talking to media salesmen, we estimate that Senator Powell is spending at least $30,000 on this campaign, and that's a very conservative estimate. I do not understand how a person can spend such a large amount of money on a job that only pays $3,600 per year, plus an additional $50 per day when the legislature is in session. I feel that I'm spending more than most candidates running for the office of state senator. And Senator Powell is spending at least twice as much and possibly 3 times more than I am.
On the evening of September 5th, Bob Ingram, a man who's had his eye on the Alabama political scene for over 30 years, will join WSFA TV News as a special political analyst for Decision 78. He's an expert. He talks to people.
Said that the fact that you're always right up here, maybe what's wrong in Montgomery. Maybe y'all ought to be wrong sometimes. What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't really know what I meant. It could be that we could use some better leadership down there.
Bob Ingram, colorful, sometimes controversial, knows politics inside out. He'll be joining me, Bob Howell, for Decision 78 to give you the inside track on the candidates' strategies. He'll be interpreting the returns as they come in, and after the votes have been counted, he'll have an in-depth analysis of the outcome. Watch for Bob Ingram, Tuesday evening, September 5th, on Decision 78. Complete election coverage only on TV 12.
Walter Flowers of Tuscaloosa is the congressman for the 7th District of Alabama. He has served in the U.S. House of Representatives for 10 years. The 45-year-old attorney serves on 3 House standing committees, the Science and Technology Committee, the Judiciary Committee, and the Committee on Standards for Official Conduct. He says he's relying on his experience as a legislator in campaigning for the Senate seat being vacated by retiring Senator John Sparkman.
I've served with now in those 10 years, and I've known well 4 presidents of the United States. I've known well over 100 United States senators, and far, far more than the usual 435 members of the House of Representatives, because there has been a tremendous turnover in recent years. I guess it's almost inevitable that a House member glances over there to the other side of the Capitol on these rare occasions. And really, honestly, it doesn't take a whole lot of urging, I must admit.
Representative Quarles has just completed her first term in the Alabama House of Representatives. Her previous background was one of a school teacher in her hometown of Springville. In her campaign, Quarles says it's time to throw out what she calls the art of politics and work in realistic terms to deal with the problems. She considers the major issues facing Alabama voters this election to be inflation, tax reduction, quality of education, and the accountability of government. Currently, there are only 3 states whose lieutenant governors are women: New York, Mississippi, and Kentucky. But Quarles says she doesn't want the fact that she's a woman to become a deciding factor in this year's elections here in Alabama.
Well, I feel that in seeking the lieutenant governor, that my goals are clear and straightforward to bring to what has been an inefficient legislative body a more progressive unity in the House and the Senate, working with the governor on legislation that is in the best interest of the people of Alabama. I feel that the middle Alabamians, the ones that do 95% of the work and pay 99% of the taxes, do not have fair representation in the Alabama legislature. And I have gained the expertise by being in the legislature as the only woman elected in 1974 that qualifies me for this position.
Gordon Tucker of Montgomery is General Chairman of the United Homeowners of America. The 51-year-old businessman has served in public relations capacities in the Alabama Department of Education and Department of Agriculture. Over the years, he has moderated several radio and television programs on business. He says his political views are nearly identical to the late Senator Jim Allen's. Martin says he wants to keep government out of the business sector.
We've got 4 positive alternatives, I think, that we need to really look at as far as government goes. Number 1, we need to turn to a zero-based type of budgeting. Number 2, we need to get away from deficit spending. No more deficit spending, period. I think of Senator Fletcher, who brought no more deficit spending to Alabama way back in 1939, 40, somewhere along there. I don't know where Alabama would be today if we hadn't gotten it. The third thing is an income tax, and probably maybe other taxes, but certainly an income tax that is based on buying power rather than numbers of dollars received. A man today with $20,000 is nowhere nearly as well off as he was with 10 some few years ago. And I ask myself, what will happen when the average family income goes to $50,000, $75,000, $100,000, and they're basing it on numbers of dollars? Okay, the fourth alternative is a renewed emphasis on property rights. We're really not giving the emphasis there that we should. And then I've got a fifth thing that we might throw in here, and that is I would like to see all of the voting records of all of our congressmen and senators published in all of the hometown newspapers and the home district newspapers.
When buying a can of peas, a pound of ground beef, or a half a gallon of ice cream, do you ever stop to read the label? And if you do, does it ever tell you what you wanted to know? Or does it explain too much of what you didn't want to know? Your opinion on what should be included on food labels is being sought by the Food and Drug Administration. Hearings have been scheduled in several cities so that people throughout the country can go and discuss what they feel is important for consumers to know.
I'd like to know whatever's in there and how much is in there, particularly sugar. I'm not willing to pay for a cost-benefit study. Just switch to percents. That's all. Don't do a big study. I tell you, everybody wants percents.
There are many consumers who ask for this and this and this and this, but a little bit of studying and a little bit of work on their part, and they could get this information without having enormously expensive changes being made in labels.
Although a hearing is not scheduled for this area, you can write your comments and send them to the FDA by November 10th. Categories to consider when commenting on food labeling are ingredient labeling, nutrition labeling and other dietary information, open date labeling, food fortification, which refers to additional ingredients, imitation and food substitutes, safe and suitable ingredients, and total food labeling. Currently, there are federal standards to identify foods such as canned fruits and vegetables, meat and poultry products, milk, cheeses, bread, and margarine. These standards state the name of the food, define the composition, and specify which ingredients must be listed on the label. Some consumer groups have proposed requiring all food labels to list the percentage of ingredients instead of listing them in descending order according to weight. Under the present regulations, most ingredients must be listed on the label by their specific name, such as salt. However, such ingredients such as spices, flavorings, and colors may be included without naming the specific ingredient. Other factors to consider are which food labels should be required to list the amount of ingredients in their products, and would you be willing to pay for additional information on the labels? Of the 7 labeling categories, imitation and substitute foods and safe and suitable ingredients seem to be of primary importance. Most consumers like to know whether they're buying the real thing, and they also like to make sure the ingredients added don't change or degrade the basic characteristic of the food. The goal of the food labeling program is to make labels more sensible and intelligible to the consumer. So we ask a sampling of typical consumers what information would be desirable and informative on food products.
I like to know the basic ingredients on what I'm purchasing and, where it's from and everything. That's really about all.
What about nutritional value?
That's extremely important, There's so many brands and there's so many off-brands, and I really stick to the known brands because I feel confident in what I'm buying.
And people, if there's any kind of additional information such as calorie content or whatever that's not being included on food labels now that they would like to see included in the future.
Calorie content included, sure would. I think we're all diet conscious.
Right.
It'd be real nice.
Okay, what about nutritional value? Is that pretty important?
Yes, I really think it is. I think it would be very good if it was on our food labels.
Well, on some foods, there's not the amount of calories on them, so it would be nice if calories were shown on all of them instead of just a couple of items,
Is there anything else you can think of?
Well, how long certain stuff should cook and, and how healthy it is for you, like vitamins and stuff like that.
Well, as far as I know, I'm not much of a shopper. I usually just look for one item or whatever I'm looking for, and the food labels, that's what I mean, I don't pay that much attention. I just get what I want.
Okay, thank you.
You mean other than what's already on the labels?
Mm-hmm. Or is there anything in particular that you look for?
Well, the things that I look for are the number of ounces you get for size of the can, or a box or whatever. I don't know. It would be helpful if some of the other products had number of calories and sort of thing on it.
I look for, on cereals, how much sugar is in it, because that's been a big deal in the news today, that cereal has too much sugar, and my children love cold cereal. And for the vitamins and minerals and basically the nutritional value. And I really don't look at labels as much as I should, I guess.
I'll tell you the truth, I've never even noticed, to be honest with you.
All the ingredients that's in each item, I would feel. Let each buyer beware what he's getting. You know, the extra ingredients. Some people don't eat pork, and therefore, you know, they don't want to find pork and beef mixed in. More or less, let the buyer beware.
Well, I don't know. I kind of look for brand names and price. I like the idea of having the per unit price explained.
Do you find that that's being included on a lot of the items that you buy?
Most of the ones that I pick out.
Well, I do like to see the calorie content, you know, on the cans. I do like that. I'm always calorie conscious, but I do like to see that, you know, and like the amount of fat that it contains. I like to know how much liquid is in a can, you know, whether or not you've got all liquid or what.
Do you find that that's being included on a lot of the items that you buy?
No, not on cans. You don't find it on cans. You find it on, you know, your calorie content and all on packages, but not on cans.
I like this, having the number of calories and this kind of thing for those of us who try to watch our weight a little bit, you know. I like that very much.
Whether you're weight conscious, vitamin conscious, or just plain picky, it's generally important to read the food labels because what you buy is what you eat. This is Janet May reporting for Composite.
The 45-year-old former state treasurer, in calling a news conference, said she was fulfilling a promise she made 2 months ago when she was convicted of ethics law violations. She said she believed then, and still believes, that it was a conspiracy to remove her from the office of state treasurer, and the only way it could be done was for her to receive a prison sentence. Mrs. Allen says she will ask the state's attorney general to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate a conspiracy by people who did not want her to run for governor. Mrs. Allen did not name names, saying she did not want to try people in the media as she had been tried.
I am sure we will never know everyone who has participated in this plot. But we have enough evidence, in my opinion, to want a full-scale investigation. The people involved should be tried in court, and I will not attempt to try to see that they are tried in the news media. I am publicly asking the Attorney General of Alabama, Mr. Bill Baxley, to call in a special prosecutor or either investigate himself. I do not expect this investigation to be done before the election, and I am not trying to put him on the spot, but I do expect an answer before the election of whether or not he will.
Mrs. Allen's attorney, Jim Atchison of Mobile, said there was a willful, calculated violation of the ethics law when a report was released about Mrs. Allen to the media before she was given a hearing before the commission. A motion for new trials will be heard September 1st by Montgomery Judge Perry Hooper.
Mrs. Allen has steadfastly declared her innocence of any wrongdoing, charging that the indictments brought against her were brought against her for political reasons. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
And the reason they're unhappy, the fire department, the police department, their raise all total, their merit raise, the across-the-board raise, a $25 raise, came to a total of $1,540 per year. For sanitation, street department, their workload is going to be double. They're only going to get $450 a year. Now, we're not going to put up with this kind of stuff. So if we double our membership next Thursday and have enough people up there, we're going to take whatever job action necessary to ensure our people a decent raise down there.
In a 60-page petition to the U.S. District Court, Mitchell's attorneys asked for a writ of habeas corpus against Attorney General Griffin Bell, the U.S. Parole Commission, and Maxwell Superintendent C.W. Beaver.
In addition, Mitchell's attorneys requested his immediate release from Maxwell, pending the final outcome of the habeas corpus petition. Judge Frank Johnson ordered that request denied.
The petition said Mitchell is in the twilight of his life. He has a motherless 17-year-old daughter. He has serious medical problems. He has lost his license to practice his profession and his wealth. He has paid dearly for his errors. Therefore, he should not now be subject to the arbitrary, capricious, and vindicative actions of a parole commission which acted clearly contrary to law. The petition was based on three major premises. First, that at Mitchell's first parole hearing in July, the parole commission declined to include his 5 months medical furlough as actual incarceration, thus in essence extending his prison sentence. Secondly, the petition stated that the parole commission action on appeal was arbitrary, capricious, and unfair, thus chilling Mitchell's appellate rights as guaranteed under the Constitution. The third and perhaps strongest claim in the petition stated that the commission denied Mitchell due process when it refused to consider the possibility that one of the commission members might be biased against Mitchell. It cited media reports before that meeting that claimed a commission member said Mitchell should serve his full 4-year term. In support of documents, Mitchell's attorneys alleged that Mitchell may be, quote, the only federal prisoner in recent times who has been penalized by a medical furlough and had the medical furlough time assessed against him. Judge Johnson has ordered the named defendants in the case 10 days in which to show cause as to why the writ of habeas corpus should not be granted. From Federal Courthouse, Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News.
An industrialist from the Dothan area, McDaniel Newton, says he's fed up with what he calls liberal giveaway programs and feels the voter is ready to elect a common-sense businessman to the United States Senate. Calling himself a late runner, Newton believes most of the state's voters are going to make up their mind the last 4 days before election time, and is confident he'll win because of the issues of his platform: fighting inflation, reorganizing the Supreme Court, and dealing with organized crime.
We must deal with inflation immediately. The American people, or the people of Alabama, are sick and tired of being led down the primrose path of brainwashing and getting lawyer legislators one time after the other. We have a case in point. We have a senator who, according to the information I have, has been senile for the last 2 terms, and someone does his thinking and his voting, and we lost the Panama Canal. And the people of this country is tired of the blind leading the blind, and I think they want a businessman that has vision and has the initiative to initiate. Now, this is exactly what I propose to do. We have to turn this country around immediately, or it's going to, we're going to have to face some serious consequences that we may not recover from.
they are, and I'm getting more and more dubious about that. And we were talking just before this session began about why is it that Auburn and Opelika are developing the typical kind of Strip City, USA, Opelika Road. You've had the same thing here in Montgomery on the bypass. The television stations have been moaning about it for years. Marietta, Georgia has had the same thing with the hamburger stands and the fish stands and the fast food places and, you know, the typical tacky-wacky kind of syndrome that you get. And this has all happened in the North, and I thought there were supposed to be some values down here that were supposed to mediate against that kind of thing, and I frankly don't, I see less and less of it.
You were deceived, David.
I guess I was at first.
We're as sophisticated as anybody.
Well, if I may return to this CUSA project that you're mentioning, Greene County can have a racetrack, and then Coosa County can have one, and then the next county, and the next county, and pretty soon they'll discover that not everybody can have that and be economically successful. There's a limit to how much of that.
It's a gamble,
so to speak.
Well, I know you were looking for a relatively specific answer to your question. I guess nobody provided one.
Well, part, if I can go back to a small community that would have anything like a development of 4,500 jobs, which I could not imagine, I think that community, that city council is going to face up to some planning in the sense that when that firm comes in, if that firm's going to locate there, that firm's going to be asking questions about those schools. That firm is going to be asking questions about housing. And so that in some sense or other, if small communities want those sort of developments, one of the things that small communities are going to have to do is to do some pre-planning that evaluates how good is my education system? Will it really meet the needs of these people? Are they going to be satisfied in this community? And also engage in some of these other activities of planning. And if they don't, and the plant by chance locates there, because I think unless the community has done some planning, the plant will not go there at all. But if by chance the plant does go there, then I think that city councilman is going to find himself